Hi, this is Michael Shawn. You know, I couldn't help but notice the other day that beautiful young lady who wrote in and said, "My husband is in the Marine Corps. I am so proud of him. He would take a bullet for me. But then he would criticize the way I drove him to the emergency room." All right, let's get this thing started. The following is an A-Team PR production.
Welcome to the Range Texan Podcast. We're kind of an escape hatch for everyday life. We know today's world has issues. Maybe that's just all the more reason to spend some time. So saddle up with a bunch of free-range Texans. Here's one now, our host, Michael Shawn.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 67. As we're breaking free and rolling out, we're glad you're listening to the best little podcast in Texas. Now, before we get started, number one on my list is to say congratulations goes out now to Brian Hawkins as he expands his territory. We all remember Brian when he started out at Channel 28 about 1 billion years ago in Lubbock, Texas. But he went on to work and shoot video for Bob Phillips and the Texas Country Reporter. And while doing that for a number of years, he has been asked to join the team at Texas Monthly Magazine. Who'd have thunk it? Way to go, Brian. We understand he's going to do both jobs now. That sounds just like him. He's spent a lifetime showing the best side of Texans. Thanks, Brian. From the free-range Texan home front, our chief of security, Foxy the Wonder Dog, left the premises. She decided on a bit of a walkabout. Anyway, she got thrown into jail, or the pound. Upon retrieval, she has promised me faithfully that she will never do that again. German Shepherd owners know what I'm talking about there. Anyway, Michael Shawn's Campfire returns with a true story, originally told by Chief Black Kettle as he lived it. A true story about Native American Indians, and it took place just the way we're going to tell it. All that and more on episode 67 of the Free-Range Texan Podcast. So let's saddle up and get ready to ride. At Free-Range Texan, we need your help. We need our listeners and viewers alike to like and subscribe on your podcast players or YouTube channels. This simple action costs you nothing, but it helps us here a lot. So thanks for listening and subscribing to the Free-Range Texan Podcast. It's time now for another segment of the Free-Range Talent File. Brought to you by A-Team PR, bringing a host of creative media production and public relations services to our exclusive list of clients. Maybe you could hire the A-Team. And now, here's the next segment of the Free-Range Talent File. As always, we've got great music here. Here's one called Till Your Boots Are Dirty. This is Gary Pratt on the Free Range Texan Podcast.
Smoking hot, fresh off the lot. You ain't country cause those boots you're wearing shine up like a diamond glaring. Don't need a thing, at least not to me. You can make that claim, they don't work that way. You gotta earn that name. You ain't country till you've been got tipping, till you've been skinny dipping with something sweet off in some creek. You ain't country till you stuck a truck knee deep down in a field of mud where back in the sticks. That's how it is. Late to bed and back up early. You ain't country, no, till your boots are dirty. You ain't country till you help your neighbor do someone in need a favor. Take off the slack and give something back. You ain't country till you pull a plow behind a tractor, break some ground, stir up some dust. Yeah, that's a must. Life rolls on like a wheel, and that's the deal. You gotta dig in your heels. You ain't country till you've been cow tipping, till you've been skinny dipping with something sweet off in some creek. You ain't country till you stuck a truck knee deep down in a field of mud where back in the sticks. That's how it is. Late to bed and back up early. You ain't country, no, till your boots are dirty. And should you ever decide to live your life this way, somewhere down the line, you'll be the one to say, you ain't country till you've been cow tipping, till you've been skinny dipping with something sweet off in some creek. You ain't country till you stuck a truck knee deep down in a field of mud where back in the sticks. That's how it is. Late to bed and back up early. You ain't country, no, till your boots are dirty. Till your boots are dirty. Dirty. Yeah. Ah, come on now. You ain't country till you feed 'em a little mud. Yeah.
On the Free Range Texan, that, my friends, is Till Your Boots Are Dirty. And that is just one more great song from our special guest today, Gary Pratt. Gary, welcome to the Free Range Texan.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, you know, a lot of times when we interview people, they just have to put their life on hold for a few minutes and talk to us, and we're always appreciative of that, and we're glad you're doing that today. The thing that we noticed about you, about all of your music, and your, what we call in this industry, your press kit, which is pictures and a bio and all that, you are a very polished entertainer, and that's fun to see.
Thank you. I think I am. You know, I've learned a lot and watched a lot, and you know, I'm there for the people. You know, you sort of want to get your audience involved in your show too, and I think that just really, you know, that just shows you have to play off the audience.
Well, and how does a country boy singer like you come from Pittsburgh? I mean, does that happens there?
You know what? There's a lot of country boys here. A lot of mudding, a lot of, you know, three-wheeling, all whatever, you know. There's a lot of country boys here. And I mean, you see it on the streets and the trucks and all that. So I'm proud to be, you know, from a small town. It's not really Pittsburgh. I'm actually from a small town about 25 miles away from Pittsburgh, but it's sort of out in the woods.
Yeah, bedroom community. Well,
yeah.
In Texas, we feel like we've cornered the mark on, good old country boys and country music, but that's really not the case. We've got other people in your area that are from that Pittsburgh area, and there seems to be a nest of great talent that comes out of that area.
You know what? There's a lot of talent out here, and it's just a lot of people you've never heard of. And
well, have you been doing this since you was a kid, or what?
Oh, yeah.
How'd you grow up in all this?
I've loved music forever. Some family members and that, they played guitar, and we got some family gatherings and stuff, and people will be playing and that. But I sort of always knew that I wanted to do music, and I just started writing and singing, mostly singing and writing since I've been a young kid. And then my family, my mom and dad, they would actually take me out to this place called Paradise Park. And I was probably maybe 15 or something like that. And they had a house band there. And eventually I started opening up for some bigger names back then. And that sort of got me really, really interested in, being on stage and meeting so many different people. But
well, now, Gary,
that's sort of where I started.
Let's talk about those names that you were very humbly skipping over. If I ask you the question, what does Dwight Yoakam, Pam Tillis, Lori Morgan, Ronnie Millsap, Crystal Gale, what do those people have in common?
You know what? I really think it is the polish, how polished they are on stage and how their voices and their styles are different. And when you hear each one of those artists, you know exactly who it is. I think sometimes today, like, some of these guys and some of these girls, I think some of them sound the same and you're not quite sure who they are. But then there's some out there that don't, like Ashley McBride. I mean, when you hear her, you know that's her voice. Just like Reba, Reba, you can't mistake her voice. But there's some of the, not to put them down or anything, but some of the newer people, some of them all sound a little alike.
Well,
and,
now hold on just a minute. Let me stop you there. Excuse me for interrupting you, but
yeah.
You are a humble guy, because the answer we were looking for is Dwight Yoakam, Pam Tillis, Lori Morgan, Ronnie Millsap, and Crystal Gale have this other thing in common.
What's that? You
have opened for all of their shows. Isn't that correct?
Well, yeah, I have.
Oh, man.
I have, but I was thinking, hey, what have I gotten from these people? What have I learned? And
we're interviewing you, Gary. Oh, bless your heart, brother. Man, I'll tell you, I can tell that you are a humble guy. And but we're going to drag you back into the spotlight here.
Okay.
And say that you've got a new album that has just been released. Something Worth Remembering is the name of that album. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm very proud of this project. It actually, I was recording a Christmas album when I first got the idea to do a new album. And I wanted to do an album that, the new album, this one that's out now, I wanted to do it a little bit different. Usually I write all the songs on an album or, like an EP or whatever. And this time I wanted to get some other writers from Nashville involved just to have that more connections. I thought it would bring more connections to the album.
Yeah.
And I got some wonderful writers. I did write most of the songs on the album, but I have Reba McEntire's niece co-wrote a song actually. Did a wonderful job, and I have Tony Arata, who wrote the Dance for Garth Brooks, also has I did one of his songs. Yeah, which is to have their names on my album and out there. That's an honor too. To let they let me record their material.
Well, and
but
now,
the album it's awesome.
In all honesty, I've mentioned, I saw another couple of names that I wanted to be sure and mention because these people have recently been guests on our Free Range Texan podcast. That, of course, is Matt Weston, and who's from your area. He's from the Pittsburgh area.
Yes.
And he's got a lot of things going on. And Savannah
awesome.
Nider, too. Neat lady.
Yeah, you've had her on the show?
Oh, man, yeah. Yeah.
She's so great. When I was down in the studio, Matt and I were recording at the same studio and got to know each other a little bit. And my producer says, well, why don't we bring Matt in to do some background vocals? And I said, yeah, let's do that. So he came in. In fact, Till Your Boots Are Dirty, he's on a song. That song, Till Your Boots Are Dirty. And then there was a song I wrote called To Find Us. And when I wrote the song, I wanted it to be a duet. And we recorded it just with my vocals first. And I'm like, hey, Brian, my producer, Brian Cole, I said, I really think we should do a duet. Maybe we could find someone on the MTS label. Now, at that time, Michael he said, yeah, I'll listen to your album after after you get it done, and it wasn't nothing concrete with him at all. And I said, why don't we add some other MTS artists on the album?
That's
that way,
a great idea.
It would give me that extra push, So I never did tell Mike until he heard it, who was on the album. But Savannah, I had heard her because my producer was producing her in Nashville. And this is when the pandemic was going on. 2 years ago, him and I took a trip down to Nashville and recorded that duet with Savannah down at Omni Studios down in Nashville. But we took the ride down, and of course all the streets down there were empty, and it was just really different vibe going on. But the closer I got to Nashville, your creative juices just start flowing. I don't know what it is, but that's for me. And I was stuck in a room, for a few days. We didn't really have contact too much other than with Savannah and in the studio and my producer. But I started writing more songs down there by the pool, just started flowing. But they are both great artists. I'm so happy to have them, and they agreed to be on the album. And the song with Savannah, like I said, it's a duet, and it turned out really. I'm really happy the way it turned out.
Man, that is those names that you're mentioning there are near and dear to our heart here on the Free Range Texan, because we've had a chance to meet these people and produce shows around these people. And you can tell when you're working with somebody who is polished and yet at the same time they are humble. And they're just great people who don't mind working the music business and understand the importance of that. And you're one of those people, I guess.
Thank you. You know what? When I first started working at Tonic Studios, as far as, doing, some projects there, the people that I met there, I mean, it seems all the people that I have met with this project are just very caring, true, wonderful people. They're just down to earth, and even like Michael Stover. And it's just sort of amazing. I think, how, I really truly believe that God put the right people in my path here, to get this project done. And these people are like my friends now. They're not just people that I worked for or paid to have, do different things. I mean, we call each other. My producer calls, just say, hey, how you doing? And, the engineer there at Tonic, Doug Stover, I mean, they're friends,
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like you're a person that believes that the important things happen when they're supposed to, because clearly you're on the right track and the right people are being put in your path, and that's important.
Yeah, I truly believe that. Yes.
Well, all right. The next thing is, and you mentioned this briefly when we talked about your upcoming album, Something Worth Remembering. What's the backstory on that?
Well, that album actually has been released, and like I was saying about, I was in the studio and I said I want to do another project, and then it hit me that I wanted to dedicate it to my brother. He passed away. Well, it's been 4 years now. In fact, January 9th was his death anniversary, and the 15th is his birthday. But
oh my.
Yeah, his name was Dennis, and he was a wonderful brother. And I just got this idea that I want to dedicate this album to him. So then I started, writing and thinking of songs and going through songs, like I said, through some Nashville writers and trying to pick the right songs, things that are about life, not just things with messages, but also songs that make you want to get up and dance, because life is so, everything in life is, you never know what's coming. And it could be something serious, like a relationship, or it could be just something going out and having fun with your friends. And the first release on the album was a song you can drink a beer to. Yeah. And it went over really well. And that's what got people listening, to me. And the song is actually the whole story about the album. It's we always need a song to drink a beer to, no matter what kind of situation it is. It could be a good situation or a bad situation. So you always need a song to drink a beer to, whatever you may be thinking. It helps with the situation. Right. If you get my drift. Yeah. So we started with that album or that song, and we were getting sort of the lineup of the songs of how we wanted in the studio, but something really wasn't clicking. And it was like, how can I dedicate this whole album to my brother? Because it's not making sense to me on how I'm going to tie it all together. It was just like all over the place. And then my producer brought Tony Arata's song to me, and it was called Something Worth Remembered. And he played the first verse, and it made everything make sense.
That was it.
It was it. I said, that's the title of the album. I said, I know exactly what song's going to be first, what song's going to be last, and that's the title track for the album. And it's dedicated to my brother, and there's parts of in that song about my life, his life, and anybody can relate to it. It could be a tear jerker, but it's also a song of hope. So that's why we ended the album with that song, and that's why we titled the album, because it just made everything on the album make sense. And now the whole album is like a story from the beginning to the end.
That is a beautiful story, and we're fixing to play that song here on the Free Range Texan. Cool. But before we do, I want to ask you this before I forget. The song about a song to drink a beer to.
Yes.
Did you do a video on that?
Yes, we did do a video, and it's actually a lyric video, but it's an awesome video. I'm so proud of it. In fact, I did most of all the photographs and the little clips and everything, and Michael and them put all the words to it, but it's a fun video.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is what we're going to do on our Free Range Texan blog. If folks go to freerangetexan.net and click on the blog right there, we're going to have an article about you and several more pictures of you. But we're going to obtain that video. We'll make that decision right now and put that song on our blog and present it there. And then, of course, we'll have a link to this podcast as well. And with that being said, something worth remembering, I think, would be a great place for us to go right now.
Okay. Can I mention one more thing?
Of course you can.
Hey, because of Michael Stover and his promoting and everything, a couple different things happened this year that I really need to mention, and that's I won Male Songwriter of the Year through the International Singer-Songwriters Association this year. I'm so honored to have that. Yeah, to have that award, and it's actually a nice crystal award. I was just so excited about that. I always wanted to, have an award like that.
Well, it's a big deal, man.
Yeah. And I was also up for Josie Music Awards and the Hollywood Media Music Awards, and also right now in Holland they're having the Red Carpet Awards, and I'm nominated for that too. So,
isn't the internet a magnificent tool?
It is awesome. I was on stage the other night and I said to the audience, I was like, I'm so happy about all this stuff that's been happening. And I said, and it's because of technology. I said, I'm not even living in Nashville, and people around the world are hearing my music.
Oh, man, that's great. Thank you, Gary Pratt, for spending a little bit of time with us. I know you got to be busy. You have a lot of things going on. Your website is somewhere that folks could go as well and maybe see what's going on, or where they might get a chance to walk through the door somewhere and hear you play and see you live.
Right.
Wouldn't that be true? And would you give your website right now?
Oh, yeah. You can get a lot of information on that website, a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, different podcasts and reviews and articles. It's www.garyprattmusic.com.
Fantastic, man. You're going to have a lot of things going on. You're going to have a lot of good things happen to you. And when you do, we want to invite you back on the Free Range Texan and make sure you tell us about it.
Hey, I appreciate it, Michael, so much. This is an honor. I appreciate it.
Here he is, Gary Pratt. Something worth remembering on the Free Range Texan Podcast.
Our days are giving one at a time, minute in by minute, line by line. And like the sun in evening till the sun and morning light, our days will fade or shine. The only thing I know is that our days will come and go. So let's do our best to somewhere in between and do something worth remembering.
been listening to the Free Range Talent File. If you'd like more information about our guest, just go to our website at freerangetexan.net. Also, submissions to be interviewed on the Free Range Talent File should be sent to our website at freerangetexan.net. You want to make a podcast? What if there was a place where it all could be simple? We got a team that comes alongside and listens to you. We know what you have to share is important, and we can make it easy. Go ahead, let A-Team PR share our polish and rich sound with you. Find out how smooth it can all be. So, you want to make a podcast from anywhere in the world? Go to freerangetexan.net and click on the A-Team PR banner and arrange to speak with one of our producers that specialize in making it all easy. Click on A-Team PR on freerangetexan.net. Hi, I'm Michael Shawn. Welcome to our Campfire. Help yourself to some cowboy coffee and find yourself a spot where you can keep your feet warm. The details of this story are tragically true. The story was recalled by Chief Black Kettle. And when he told this story, he was around the age of 60. It was a crisp fall morning in the early hours of sunrise, when dozens of armed U.S. cavalry soldiers rode down on what was then peaceful and elderly members of a Cheyenne encampment. They rode among the fleeing members of the tribe with orders to kill the few braves that were left, followed by the women and children trying to flee for their lives. The Indians had even tried to fly the United States flag, showing that they were not at war with the soldiers. It was known as the Massacre on Sand Creek in 1864. Chief Black Kettle managed to escape to the nearby woods. When the shooting ended, he returned in search of his wife. Her name was Medicine Woman later. He found her severely wounded. She had been shot 9 times, but she survived. They and a few other survivors fled to the safety of other Cheyenne encampments. It was about a year later when Black Kettle met with government officials again to ask for territory where the Cheyenne and the Arapaho could live in peace. The result was the 1865 Little Arkansas Treaty. It established a land reserve along the Arkansas River and promised what it referred to as reparations for the loss of livestock, horses, and 200 human lives that were taken as a result of Sand Creek's massacre. However, reparations were never implemented, and what the Indians saw as an immigrant invasion heightened in the wake of the Pikes Peak Gold Rush. Black Kettle was on record as saying, "All we want, all we ask, is that we have peace with the whites." In efforts to maintain a friendship with the white settlers, he signed the 1867 Medicine Lodge Treaty, which greatly reduced the land that was set aside just 2 years earlier and pushed the Cheyenne and Arapaho into Oklahoma, otherwise known as Indian Territory. Oklahoma was considered to be a dumping ground for displaced and forcibly removed tribes during this time. And after all that, the 1867 treaty was again never ratified. Chief Black Kettle and his Cheyenne Nation tribe saw clearly that their land was usurped and then stolen. It was a year later Black Kettle and his band were setting up camp along the Ouachita River near what is known today as Cheyenne, Oklahoma, well within the boundaries noted in the Medicine Lodge Treaty. There, they were the victim of yet another surprise attack. This time, the slaughter was led by the 7th Cavalry. Without bothering to identify the village, George Armstrong Custer led the early morning attack on the peaceful band of Cheyenne. On this day, November 27th, 1868, Black Kettle, Medicine Woman later, and about 100 or more of the Cheyenne died. They survived the Sand Creek Massacre, only to be killed 4 years later. It is history not taught in our schools. This land, here in the United States, belonged to Native American Indians, and they were killed for it. Chief Black Kettle, in his honorable push for peace and his continuing desire to do the right thing, was known for his fight to protect his people and his homelands. Descendants of Chief Black Kettle ask only that we honor those who came before us by acknowledging their existence. So, now, wherever you live in this country, indigenous people lived there first. Whatever city you call home was first populated by American Indian tribes. The entire country was built on an Indian burial ground. And now all they ask is that we pay our respects. It's a true tale from our campfire. I'm Michael Shawn. Adios, my friends. Range Texan, episode 67, coming in with full flaps, with a big thank you to our new friend, Gary Pratt, and a quick reminder about Gary Pratt's video at freerangetexan.net. Click on the blog, and it's all there. I'd like to personally thank a long line of individuals, starting on the res in Oklahoma, that helped make Chief Black Kettle's true tale come alive here on our edition of Michael Shawn's Campfire. And one last bit of business is, please, friends, subscribe to our Free Range Texan podcast. It makes a difference. And the rest of the story is, we appreciate all of y'all listening. Next month, on the evening of the 1st, we get to roll out episode 68. I'd like to leave you with one thought. I heard this the other day. I liked what it said. Giving up your values in the name of security means we've lost the war in advance. Dear friends, guard your freedoms. So until next time, Foxy, get in the pickup. Take 'em home, sweetie pie.
Thank y'all for listening to the Free Range Texan Podcast, produced at 18PR Studios, out yonder in West Texas, with our host, who's been voted the hardest working man in podcasting, Michael Shawn. Feedback or submissions to our program can be submitted on our website, freerangetexan.net. That's freerangetexan.net. This is Sweetie Pie, on behalf of Michael Shawn and the crew here in Studio A, where we're all looking forward to spending time with you on our next episode of the Free Range Texan Podcast. Y'all come back now, you hear?
An 18PR production. End transmission.
That's all. Can we go now, Dad?